Hey everyone, it's Eric with FirearmTutorials.com, and today I'm going to talk about reloading. And the reason I wanted to do this on the whiteboard was to illustrate mathematically some real-world numbers here so you can see how much money you're going to save. And this is based on what I pay for these things and my own reloading data here. So I'm going to use two pistol cartridges as an example, 9mm and 45 ACP. And I'm going to go ahead and say that if you buy these from the factory, factory ammunition, you're going to pay about 22 cents a round for the 9mm and about 45 cents a round for the 45. Kind of funny how that works. These are pretty conservative numbers. They'll be a little bit different depending on where you're buying it from and how much you're buying and whatever. So to reload this stuff, I'll go over the four basic components and then talk about the cost of a press and how much you'll need to reload in order to break even. So let's start with the four components. You're going to need powder, primers, bullets, and cases. So I'm going to assume, and most reloaders do this as well, is the cost of the cases are going to be free. You can buy them for 2 to 4 cents per case if you're so inclined, but most people just pick up their own or pick up brass at the range. Even indoor ranges, you'd be surprised how much you could pick up if you just kind of get a little bit each time you go. So we're going to assume that those are free, and powder comes in anywhere from 1 to 8 pound tubs. And depending on how much powder you're using will depend obviously how many rounds you can actually load per 1 pound. I'll stick with 1 pound. So I did the math on this some time ago based upon the amount of grains I was putting in each case and then the cost of the entire thing, and I figured out for 9mm the cost is about 1.5 cents per case. So you got 1.5 cents worth of powder in each case. And instead of rounding, I actually bumped this up. It's closer to 1, but I put 0.5 in there for some waste, spillage, or cartridges that aren't loaded properly that you can't use. Same thing with primers and this other stuff. So primers are about 4 cents around 4 cents a primer, and then bullets we're going to say 115 grain full metal jackets will run about, let's see, what are those? They're about 9.5 cents, we'll say, for those. So let's say that's a grand total of 15 cents. Is that right? 16 cents. So 16 cents versus 22 cents. So every time you pull that trigger, you're saving 5 cents. Doesn't sound like a lot, but when you talk about 1,000, well, if we do the math, let's say that's $160 versus $220. So it's a pretty good little savings there, 40, 60 bucks. Not bad. 45, you're going to save a little bit more. So for some of these, powder and primers are about the same, 1.5, 4 cents. Bullets, let's go 2 ways here. Let's go both 230 grain, let's say full metal jackets and cast lead. So the full metal jackets will be about, gosh, what are those? Those are about 15 cents. These are pretty conservative. And then cast lead, we'll say 10 cents. You can get them almost as low as 8. And if you're wondering about cast lead, I have an article on firearmtutorials.com. I'll put a link to it in the description that talks a little bit about cast lead bullets and how you should choose one cast lead bullet over another, because there's hardness and different things to account for with those. But they can save you a lot of money, and I also talk about shooting cast lead bullets in your barrels as opposed to full metal jackets. So let's say, and again, we're assuming that the cases are free. So we're going to go with, let's see, full metal jackets will be 15, 19, let's say 21 cents. And the cast lead will be to 14, gosh, almost as cheap as, let's say 16 cents, almost as cheap as the 9mm. So, so again, we do the math. That's, let's say $450, or we'll go with the reloaded amount first. $210 versus 450. That's a lot of money. And then if you go the lead route, you're talking $160 versus $450. That's a huge savings. But again, you should be aware of cast lead. I use cast lead in most of my guns now. But so that's the cost difference. Now let's talk about the cost of the equipment needed. So let's go on the high side. So let's say for reloading, you get a Dillon XL 650, because that's what I have. And you get the case feeder, the dies to go with it. Let's say 2 die sets. Well, let's throw the other things on there. The tumbler and the scale. So those are pretty much the bare minimum you're going to need for this. Let's say this is going to be about 1,100 bucks. The tumbler and the scale, let's see, the tumbler is going to be about, let's say, 65. And for a decent scale, let's say 110 if you get the Dillon scale. Actually, that's a little low, but we'll go with that. So what do we got here? We've got 1,265 bucks. It's a lot of money, but actually it's 1,275. There we go. I'm not a math major. So for 1,275, you get all this reloading equipment, which will last for most people their entire life. Depending on how much you're using it, if you're really young, you may somehow manage to wear out one of these things. But for $12.75, it's a significant upfront investment, but you know, over time it more than pays for itself. So how do we figure this out? So $12.75 is the cost. So how do we cover the cost of that press? So if we were to pay $450, let's go with the full metal jackets. So $450 minus $210, what are we saving there? Where's my calculator? And for any of you that are from overseas, this is actually how lazy Americans are. We pull out calculators for even the simplest of math, and we think nothing of it. So if you're saving $240, let's $12.75 divided by 240, 5.31. So we'll call it 6K. So if you reload 6,000 rounds of 45 ACP, you will have effectively paid for your reloading press in what you would have paid for factory ammo. If you're going cast lead, it's even quicker than that. So, or it's actually, I don't know. But 6,000 rounds, I'd say, is a safe estimate based on these prices, and I'm not getting any special deals really anywhere. If anything, I could probably find these components for a little bit cheaper, but that's pretty much it. If you're thinking about getting into reloading, here's the math of it. So that's about it. If you have any questions, let me know, and thanks for watching.